All right, welcome back to episode 2 of our new show focusing on how you can integrate AI into your business. So, we're going to have a couple quick topics that we're going to cover today that hopefully will give you some information on AI and start to learn more and more about how it can be integrated into your business. As a reminder, this show is not for super technical AI engineers and people like that. If you want to watch it and then you like it, I hope you do. That's great, but it's not targeted towards you. This video is targeted towards the COOs and the CFOs and the director of operations and the frontline employees who are sitting in a role in their business and they're hearing all this noise about AI. Maybe they're getting pushed by their board or by their CEO to integrate AI, but they're not really sure what to do, how to do it, what those exact use cases actually look like, right? That's who this show is. We're going to be doing regular shows trying to talk about different concepts in AI to help educate and also specific use cases, specific tools that people can start to learn about it and incorporate into their day to day. All right. So today we're going to be covering a few things. So, first of all, we're going to be covering what is a context window with an LLM. Then we're going to be covering what is an MCP or what is MCP, Model Context Protocol. And then we're going to be talking about a couple of different tools, which I think are pretty cool. One has to do with being able to figure out what your competitors' websites are built on, and the other one is a social media tool for posting and creating content on different social channels. I'm gonna talk to you about both of those and give you kind of my take. So, number one, what is a context window? The simplest way to explain it is a context window is the amount of information that an LLM can remember to interact with you and answer questions about, right? So if you go to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever it is, you can create a project, you can upload PDFs, documents, notes, you can go back and forth on the chat, right? And so there is essentially like a character or a amount of information limit to how much it can conceptualize. So you could think about it if you were sitting at the dinner table and you were having conversations with people, let's say that you could only remember the last 20 minutes of conversation. That would make it difficult as you got to like the hour mark in a dinner to continue to have intelligent conversation with people because you have now forgot everything beyond the last 20 minutes, right? But if you had a 2 hour ability to remember everything that was said in the conversation, then you could probably navigate any dinner scenario effectively because hopefully most dinners aren't lasting longer than 2 hours and you're able to remember everything that was covered inside of that window, right? So that's the way that you can conceptualize a context window for an LLM. Why does this matter? Well, depending on what you are trying to do when you are interacting with them, you will need a longer context window. If you are doing something relatively complex, if you are going back and forth a number of times, if you have to upload documents that are very long, you might run into a scenario where you really need to get a lot of context down, right? So it might make sense. I believe we talked about this the other day, but Gemini right now has the longest context window of any LLMs out there, right? So depending on how much context you think will be needed, that could influence which LLM you choose to use for your use case. But here's a quick tip. If you're working in ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, whatever, and you run out of context window, generally it'll tell you you're getting to the end of the chat or the end of this context window, right? Hopefully it tells you. If it doesn't tell you, it used to not tell you, and I think that was a little bit more challenging because you could think you were referencing information and not. But now I think most of them tell you if you're running to the end of the chat or the end of the context window, ask it to write. If you're getting towards the end, ask the LLM to write a summary that could be digested by an LLM to provide all of the important context from the conversation that you've worked for. If you do that and then you upload that into a fresh chat, you can get a fresh context window, but hopefully rebuild context in a lot less words that you can continue to work off of. All right. So that's what a context window is. That's why it matters to you guys who are using LLMs every day. So now let's talk about model context protocol. So model context protocol, this is a definition. All right. So I'm reading a definition for this one, is a standardized set is a standardized system that lets AI models like chatbots or language AIs connect easily to outside information and tools, like the internet, databases, or apps in a consistent, organized way. It acts like a universal translator, so developers don't have to create a new custom connection every time an AI needs to access something new. It was created by Anthropic to make AI smarter and more useful by giving it real time context capabilities. So that is a definition. I actually asked ChatGPT, Claude, and Grok to generate a definition. I think this one's from Grok. It's the one that I thought was the easiest, made the most sense, right? So what does that actually mean, though? So essentially, you can think of it like this, right? Most of these LLMs have been trained on the internet. They've been trained on different training data that are out there. Some of them have different data sets and all of those things, right? Grok might start to use Twitter a lot more, or X, sorry, all those types of things. But they've been trained on, in general, publicly available training resources. They haven't been trained on, like, say, your specific system, right? So let's say that you're an organization and you use Salesforce as a CRM, right? So they certainly haven't been trained on Salesforce specifically, although publicly available Salesforce information they probably have been trained on, but they definitely haven't been trained on your instance of Salesforce, the actual data that's in there, nor the potential customized setup that you've built inside of your Salesforce environment, right? So in kind of a traditional sense, let's say that you wanted to build a customer chatbot that could take customer inquiries and then respond to them based on the information that was in your Salesforce instance, right? So in a past life, 6 months ago, because this is all really new, if you wanted to do that, a developer would have to build an integration to allow a connection between Salesforce and the LLM, and or you would have to figure out a way to offload all of the data that you wanted from Salesforce into a separate location that you then would connect to the LLM. So that took a lot of development work, took a lot of technical resources. It was a bigger lift. The idea behind MCP is that applications, like in this example, a Salesforce, create a standardized, consistent mechanism that LLMs will use to connect to them. So every LLM, ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, DeepSeek, whatever, could go out and always be able to connect to, in this example, I don't know if Salesforce has this yet or anything, but like I'm just using them as an example. But in this example, they could always go out and connect directly to Salesforce and pull that information in without any developer work, because they would already know how to connect because of the way the context protocol is built, right? And so what that does is it will allow significantly less IT resources and development time for any potential projects where people really want to expand the context for LLMs to work with to very specific applications for their organization, right? Now, somebody has to build the MCP for those applications. Somebody has to set it up. Somebody has to do those types of things, right? But like once it's built, but a lot of applications, a lot of SaaS companies are going to do that because they want to provide that capability. And then as they do that, it's going to make it much, much easier to start to integrate LLMs with those systems, right? So that's something to be aware of when you hear the term MCP. That is what we're talking about there, right? So a couple tools I want to talk about with you. So they are builtwith.com. And so the first thing I would tell you, builtwith.com, I haven't used it a ton, but I think it's pretty cool. If you have ever had any curiosity about competitors' websites, or any website really, and what it's built with, go to builtwith.com, drop that website in there, check it out, and it'll give you a breakdown. I've tried it with a couple of examples. It's pretty solid. I haven't spent extensive time with it, but I saw somebody talking about it on Twitter, so I thought I would share that. Something that I have used quite a bit lately is blaze.ai. So blaze.ai, BLAZE.ai, is a social media generation and posting platform. So we've been using this for a week or so now, and I love it. It's great. 5 stars. You can integrate with your personal LinkedIn, your business LinkedIn, Twitter account, I said LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all the socials. You can help it generate ideas for blog posts. You can help it create video content. It'll look at your best performing content and then use that to inspire new ideas. The type of content that it creates is pretty solid, but you can obviously edit it to improve some of the messaging and stuff like that. My team and I created, minus recording videos, we created probably like 2 weeks worth of social media posts in about 35-ish minutes of work and scheduling it out. And it has a calendar feature in there where you can schedule everything out. So it's very cool. I like it. 5 stars so far. I don't have any complaints. We're using it for our own social media stuff, both to help generate content and to create a calendar for all those social media postings. So if you want to get more of a social media presence, but you really have trouble creating content, getting stuff regularly scheduled, I think it's a great tool. You should check it out, blaze.ai. That's pretty much all for today. I actually talked longer than I intended to, but we're going to try to do this a couple times a week and just see how it goes. But I appreciate y'all for listening. Talk to you later.